I extend a warm welcome to the delegation, and on behalf of the Senate, and on behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I will allow the Majority Leader to extend a word of welcome under 1 minute, and thereafter Senator Hamida also to extend a word of welcome under 1 minute, in that order.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of our colleagues, I welcome the visiting delegation from the Parliament of Uganda, a very friendly neighbor that we have a long-standing, deep relationship with. Mr. Speaker, not that bias is allowed, but Ugandans and Kenyans have very deep-seated friendship that is tested many times by many things, but has stood the test of time over the years. And therefore, if there was a definition of good neighborliness, Uganda fits the bill, Mr. Speaker. And we celebrate these colleagues of ours. If you notice, Mr. Speaker, when I was walking in, I walked in with a spring because we have practiced this time in the East African Parliamentary Games. The only team that we haven't beaten in football for the last few years is Uganda. But this year, I want to send these members to my good friends, Honorable Nsereko, Panadol, Mbaka Temwa, Minister Ogwang. Tell them this time in Mombasa, Uganda will see fire. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Oliotia Kare, Oliotia Nyabo, Sebo, welcome to Kenya. Kenya is your country, and of course, you know, we all enjoy the border, and everything that is in Uganda is in Kenya, except the matokes. The matokes, yes, but the matokes in Uganda you can't compare. We welcome you to Parliament. This is, of course, the Senate is a house of peace, and they always call us an upper house. We enjoy the tranquility. I hope you'll enjoy your session here, and we wish you all the best. Kindly send our regards to our colleagues the other side. Thank you very much. Welcome again.
Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
The Senate Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of on the table of the Senate today, Tuesday, the 15th of October, 2024. This is the Office of the Auditor General Annual Corporate Report for the financial year 2023-2024. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Statement pursuant to Standing Order 53-1, the Honorable Senator Christo Lasigi.
Thank you very much, Speaker. First of all, Speaker, I would like to wish yourself, colleagues, senators, and as well the blind and visually impaired community listening in Kenya, a happy International White Cane Safety Day, which is commemorated today. Mr. Speaker, sir, International White Cane Safety Day is celebrated annually on the 15th of October, where the white cane, or also known as a guide cane, is recognized as an important mobility tool for blind and visually impaired people. It is a symbol of safety, Speaker, independence, and respect for the inherent dignity of the blind and low vision community. Article 54 of the Constitution, as you know, on accessible environments for persons with disabilities, PWDs, and Articles 3, 9, and 20 of the principles enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, that's the UN CRPD, also stipulate the obligation on the inclusion of accessible spaces for white cane users. Sustainable Development Goal number 11 on accessible cities and human settlements further buttress these principles. International White Cane Safety Day is, pardon me, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, cognizant of the lack of proper regard by motorists and other road users for the role that the white cane represents, and in a bid to support and better promote awareness of the needs and challenges faced by us white cane users in Kenya, it is necessary for certain actions to be taken. To this end, Speaker, it has become imperative that the National Transport and Safety Authority and the National Construction Authority and the Kenya Roads Board fully adopt universal design standards and principles in our transport systems and across the built environments. In this statement, Speaker, this committee should explain any measures taken by the Ministry of Roads and Transport and the KRB to facilitate the development and enforcement of globally universal design regulations across Kenya's roads networks to provide essential safety for blind and visually impaired persons. Outline any steps taken by KRB and NCA to ensure the construction of tactile markers, consistency in working street lights, sonic traffic lights, drop curbs across the country, safe crossing points on our roads, frequency in clear disabled parking slots, and universally designed walkways that facilitate the safe use of white cane users countrywide. And finally, state the strategies the ministry has put in place to sensitize and train motorists to yield the right of way to every white cane user, and to further develop adequate awareness programs on the white cane as a form of non-motorized transport, NMT, within the National Driving Training Curriculum, and to ensure all motorists and traffic authorities adhere to traffic rules to keep blind and visually impaired persons safe on the roads. I thank you.
The Chairperson Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations, you had a report to lay on the table. You may proceed to lay the report. Senator Bass, are you ready to lay the paper? All right, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper, report of the Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations, Amendment Bill number 12 of 2024. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Next order, clerk.
Order number 8, motion, report of the Kenya delegation to the 147th and 148th assemblies of the Inter-parliamentary Union, IPU, and related meetings held in Luanda, Angola, from 23rd to 27th October 2023, and in Geneva, Switzerland, from 23rd to 27th March 2024.
Order, honorable senators. For those of you who are standing, please take your seat. Now, honorable clerk, before I put the question, kindly confirm that indeed we have the requisite quorum pursuant to Standing Order 42? We do? Now, honorable senators, I'll proceed to put the question that the Senate notes the report of the Kenya delegation to the 147th and 148th Assemblies of the Inter-parliamentary Union, IPU, and related meetings held in one, Luanda, Angola, from the 23rd to 27th of October 2023, and laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, the 29th of February 2024. And two, Geneva, Switzerland, from the 23rd to the 27th of March 2024, and laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, the 30th May of 2024. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Senator Fernandez, you cannot vote both ways. Next order.
Order number 9, the Political Parties Amendment number 2 Bill, Senate Bills number 26 of 2024, second reading division.
That order is deferred. Next order.
Order number 10, the Election Offences Amendment number 2 Bill, Senate Bills number 28 of 2024, second reading division.
The Majority Leader, kindly approach the chair. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 11, motion, consideration of the National Assembly amendments to the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, Senate Bills number 19 of 2024.
Clerk, have you called order number 10? Okay. So that order is, do we have the chairperson? Standing Committee on Finance and Budget. Senator Boni, you may proceed to move. Senator Boni, proceed to move the motion, please.
number 11. Give me the wrong one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to move motion number 11 on the order paper, being consideration of the National Assembly amendments to the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, Senate Bills number 19 of 2024, on behalf of the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, that the National Assembly amendments to the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, Senate Bill number 19 of 2024, be now considered. Mr. Speaker, we were assist of this matter, and we've been able, Mr. Speaker, to go through all the steps in accordance with our mandate. And Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank all the 9 members of the committee for the commitment to the work that was before us. And Mr. Speaker, in view of what is going on, Mr. Speaker, the minds of many of my colleagues have now been switched into, Mr. Speaker, the forthcoming motion on the impeachment of the Deputy President of Kenya. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to make it light for everybody and just request all of them to familiarize themselves with this report and, if possible, to agree with the committee and pass it without proposals for any amendment. Mr. Speaker, I invite the distinguished senator from Mombasa, Senator Wakili Faki, to second my motion. Mheshimiwa Spika, asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuunga mkono ripoti ya kamati ya fedha na bajeti ya bunge hili kuhusiana na sheria ya additional allocations, county additional allocations bill. Mheshimiwa Spika, kamati iliangalia marekebisho ambayo yalikuwa yamependekezwa na bunge la kitaifa kuhusiana na mswada huu wa sheria, na tukaona kwamba bunge la kitaifa lilifanya makosa kuhusiana na masuala hayo. Kwanza ni kuwa walipunguza fedha ambazo zinatoka katika serikali ya kitaifa kuja katika serikali za kaunti. Jambo la pili ni kuwa hata zile fedha ambazo wanakusanya kwa niaba ya kaunti zetu, kwa mfano faini ambazo zinalipwa kwa makosa yanayohusiana na sheria za kaunti ambazo inakusanywa na mahakama, zile pia wamezipunguza. Mheshimiwa Spika, fedha hizi ni fedha ambazo zinastahili kwenda katika mfuko wa serikali zetu za kaunti, kwa zile serikali ambazo zina mahakama. Kwa mfano, kaunti ya Mombasa kuna mahakama, hapa Nairobi kuna mahakama ambayo inatekeleza ama ina simamia mashtaka yale ambayo yanafanyika kuhusiana na sheria za kaunti. Kwa mfano, mtu anajenga nyumba bila ya kuchukua kibali cha kaunti, ama makosa kama ya vile ya wafanyabiashara kuendeleza biashara bila ya leseni. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, pesa hizo zinatakana zije mikononi moja kwa moja kwa kaunti zetu, lakini fedha zile zimeweza kuzuiliwa na serikali za kaunti, na hivyo basi pesa hizo sasa haziwezi kuja katika kaunti zetu. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna malumbukizi ya pesa hizi. Kuna malumbukizi ya pesa hizi. Kwa hivyo wakikataa, wakisema kwamba pesa hizo ziondolewe katika orodha ya fedha ambazo zinakuja kwa kaunti zetu, inakuwa ni makosa kwa kaunti zetu, Mheshimiwa Spika, kuweza kutekeleza majukumu yake. Mheshimiwa Spika, naunga mkono ripoti hii na ningeomba bunge hili liweze kuikubali na kuipitisha, kwa sababu inatoa mwelekeo kuhusiana na vile ambavyo kaunti zetu zitaweza kupata fedha. Kwa hususa, Mheshimiwa Spika, tukiangalia kwa sasa karibu kwa zaidi ya miezi minne sasa serikali zetu za kaunti haziweza kupata fedha kwa sababu msaada wa fedha wa mwaka 2024-2025 uliweza kufutiliwa mbali. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, hii sheria ambayo tulikuwa tumepitisha ingesaidia pakubwa kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba zile fedha ndogo ndogo ambazo zilikuwa zimepangwa kupelekwa zimeweza kupelekwa. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Senator Sotsi, kindly take your seat. Honorable Senators, I will now propose the question that the National Assembly amendments to the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, Senate Bills number 19 of 2024, be now considered. The floor is now open. The Honorable Senator Olekina Ledama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me begin by saying that this House shall fight for devolution. You know, it's a bit hypocritical that in this era, we are talking about devolution, devolving funds to our counties, talking about accountability.
Senator
Yet,
Fernandez,
Mr. Speaker,
may the Senator Fonaro be heard in silence.
It seems as though the national government, perpetuated by the National Assembly, is eager to make sure that they deny county governments money. Mr. Speaker, the distinguished senator from Mandera and his committee have continuously reminded this House that when it comes to the issues of resources, all of us must stand firm and reject in totality the work which is done by the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, our county governments have got roads, you know, feeder roads. We talk about a county like Narok, which is one of the counties that feeds this nation. Our feeder roads, we produce almost 80% of the wheat in this country. Our feeder roads are dilapidated. And now, Mr. Speaker, the National Assembly comes in and decides those additional grants. Seriously, I think somebody has got to drill some sense into the minds of who are really negating on their role of representation. It doesn't matter whether you represent citizens from the National Assembly or from the county. Ultimately, the county governments are the ones that will develop this nation. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to beseech all of us that the road maintenance levy fund is very, very important. This is a fund that has continued to help our communities. I can see, Anita, you okay? All right. So I think all of us sitting here, you need to remember Article 123. You vote by delegation. You need to remember Article 123. You vote by delegation. You need to remember that if you come here and not think about your county will continue suffering. As long as I'm here and God has given me air to breathe, I will always make sure that I fight for more monies to go to my counties. Because I want to see roads from Mount Narok being repaired. When you go there, you'll find that counties will tell you, we have no money to fix these roads because the National Assembly has removed these roads. So this is the time that we now redefine devolution. What is devolution? Every time we sit here and we lament, and then when a motion comes from the National Assembly, we are quick to pass it. This is an opportunity for us to be able to put our foot down even for those who will go into mediation, because I want to persuade all of us here that we reject those amendments in totality. When you go into mediation, you put your foot down. Because if we cannot fix our county government's roads, then what else are we doing? Mr. Speaker, there are counties that are still struggling to be able to build their county headquarters. There are grants there to support these counties to be able to complete these county headquarters. There are counties also that, I remember Senator Faki came here, we moved a motion, we agreed to allocate Mombasa a few more resources for them to be able to build the sports complex there. I think we need to ask ourselves whether everything should be concentrated in the national government and what impact that will have in the communities. We talk about all funds, come into the issue of revenue share. They want to reduce that. Division of revenue, I've never seen anywhere where we are talking about amendments when there is a law which is in existence. Now, our counties are crying. They have no money for anything. Sometimes you find that even doctors are going on strike, and then when you follow the doctor, the governors will tell you, we have no money to pay them. So if we are not diligent and very careful in our work, we will be sitting here and warming our chairs here. So from today, I want to beseech all of you that any time when you see a bill coming from the National Assembly that has got to do with resources, think of it as a problem and you have a hammer, and think of it as a nail, just hammer it down, poop, so that we can move forward, knowing that these distinguished men and women will fight for their counties. If we do not fight for our counties, even the future generations will laugh at us. What were all those old men doing there? They'll be pointing at the bullfighter and saying, bullfighter, what were you fighting for if you could not be able to help me get a road? Do you know, Mr. Speaker, yesterday I saw a statistics of how many houses are built out of mud in this country. It was very sad that my own county of Narok, 60% of homesteads are built out of mud. When are we going to be able to leapfrog and do away with Stone Age issues? Our forefathers lived in mud houses. Even us now in the 21st century, we are still wearing good designer suits and everything, and our people are still living in mud houses. Come on. There's a ripple effect. If the road is bad, there's no development in that area. If there are no money to build county headquarters, people will just be living there not thinking about how to develop. So in a few words, Mr. Speaker, it is imperative that all of us here, and especially head of delegations, when you're sitting down, you should have a clear picture of your county. In fact, when you sit there, in all your urban areas, you should have a spatial plan. What does my county look like? How many buildings are there? How many roads are there? If you go to your sub-counties, how many feeder roads are there? That is when you will know that it behooves you to fight hard so that not a single penny is deducted from those funds. You cannot remove those funds. Recently, Mr. Speaker, we were being told that in the budget committee of the National Assembly, that our colleagues there will make sure that their constituencies have a lot of money, and they'll fight for it. I'm sure my sister Paris was a member of parliament back then. She would be like, she'd want to be in that budget committee to make sure that some money goes to Kajiado. But now, my sister, you're here in the Senate. Those people will still want money for themselves. Now what will happen to you? They will deduct the little money which is going into counties. So unless we are all cognizant of the fact that we are here to fight for our counties, we will end up being a laughingstock. So this is the time when we break the protocol and come up with hats, and I'm willing to sponsor, that says reject. And you just sit down there and you say reject. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to remind all those who I believe will eventually go to the mediation committee that you have a duty. When you go back home and you drive your car, you're lucky you can drive an SUV. There are those people who are stuck in a pro box or in a border in a dilapidated road. Your SUV will be able to go through, but think of yourself as that person who has been bundled up in a pro box, or there are like 3 or 4 people in a motorbike who are going through bumps and bumps and bumps. Think about their generations, whether there'll be any. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I reject.
Senator Ali Roba.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. My apologies for coming in a bit late. I just wanted to take this opportunity for purpose of making sure that honorable senators are on the same page on this issue of the county additional allocation bill and why we have to reject the bill as amended by the National Assembly. Honorable senators, what gives us the moral authority to be able to criticize our county governments is if we as senators do our responsibilities, sworn responsibilities of protecting devolution at all cost. And that is the only time we'll be able to have the moral authority to be able to say, my governor has not done this or he has done that. Now, road maintenance levy fund is a fund. It's collected by Kenya Roads Board. It's supposed to maintain national trunk roads and county roads. Now the entire 10.5 billion shilling has been removed from county additional allocation. It's the first time. About 2 years ago, erroneously, that money was lumped up into division of revenue and alleged that it is part of division of revenue. We fought very hard, the Senate as well as also the Council of Governors, to indicate this is a fund appropriated by an act of parliament and it cannot be lumped up under the division of revenue. And then allocation was done under county additional allocation as it ought to be for the last 11 years. And that money is 10.5 billion shilling. Counties are not getting revenues. There is no additional allocation. The inflation rate in county governments is very high. What they are getting as additional allocation every year in division of revenue is not even able to cater for the inflationary percentage of about 6% that comes automatically without anything being done. Now, the National Assembly has gone ahead to remove the entire road maintenance levy fund of 10.5 billion shilling. They have again moved further in reducing a national government project initiated by the national government, that is the community health promoters, which was allocated 3.2 billion shilling. The staff have already been recruited. The county additional allocation, and this is payroll number 3.2, that money has been reduced to 2.58. That will be able to only cater for 86,133 community health promoters, as opposed to 107,831 community health promoters that are already working in our county government. Honorable Senators, Mr. Speaker, funds that have already been realized, like the transfer of museum function, which funds follow functions. The functions have been transferred, the funds are left, 30.1 million shilling has been removed. But even more absurd is court fines. A collection has already taken place. It is a realized money. It's not about projected revenues. The courts have already collected fines using county legislation. The fines that as a result of county legislation is already being collected. But these funds have been removed from county additional allocation. I mean, what logical reason can we give as a Senate to be able to rationalize with a fact that money already collected on behalf of the county government by the courts have been removed out of, that, and we say, oh, it is austerity measure and such other issues. It can't work. Issues to do with mineral royalty, realized funds collected already on behalf of county government, amounting to 1.1 billion shilling. That money has also been removed. Mineral, it's collected. It's not about, and it's supposed to be just appropriated in percentages in line with the law. It has been removed. Honorable Senators, this Senate, over the last 1 year, worked extremely hard in consultation with every critical stakeholder on the issue of supplement for county, headquarters for 5 counties. And eventually, in consultation with the CS National Treasury, and through this Senate, we were able to really arbitrate a situation where these 5 counties that were promised by the national government to be financed to construct their county headquarters. This project has stalled for over 8 years. Eventually, the 5 governors wrote to the Senate. They requested if the funds, the little allocation from the national government can be transferred to them, and they can top up and finish their county headquarters. That process took us 8 months. Eventually, the National Treasury, Intergovernmental Technical Committee, Public Works, the governors themselves, and the Senate agreed, and the transfer was done so that these 5 counties are able to complete their county headquarters. 528 million shilling that was in the previous county additional allocation, and this county additional allocation, that the governors have already signed and accepted. They will top up whatever that is missing for them to finish their county headquarters, now has been insensitively removed. And so that project remains stalled for additional years without any consideration. And those are the critical issues, Honorable Senators and Mr. Speaker, sir, that I felt this Honorable Senate needs to know in terms of why we should reject, and this bill heads to mediation. And that is what we are presenting to you. Thank you very much. I submit.
Senator for Nairobi City County, Senator Sifuna.
Honorable Speaker, I increasingly grow proud of our Committee on Finance and Budget because the members need to keep calm, because I don't think they will be very happy with what is about to come next. Honorable Speaker, I was a bit worried at the beginning of the term of this Parliament that we had departed from our constitutional duty to be the protectors of counties and their governments as stipulated under the Constitution. I think it is Article 96. Honorable Speaker, let me borrow the words of the Minority Whip, that in fact this Senate must at every single opportunity stand up to protect devolution and devolved units, and that every step that has been made in advancing the cause of devolution must be protected, and that no single step back must be allowed. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support the report that has come from the committee that is ably chaired by Senator Roba, because, Honorable Chair, what the National Assembly has tried to do in the amendments to this particular bill is to reduce a total of 45 billion shillings from the additional allocation to county governments. Honorable senators who have spoken before me have spoken about the reduction in RMLF of 10.5 billion shillings. But, Honorable Speaker, if you look at the totality of the reductions, there are some things that I am sure even members of the National Assembly themselves will not be able to justify. For instance, Honorable Speaker, they have cut 7.4, is it million or billion? Million from court fines. Honorable Speaker, you know some of our county governments actually run city courts to enforce local authority laws. And this money is collected from the residents of those areas. Like here in Nairobi, we have our own city court. And Honorable Speaker, there can be no justification for why that money should be retained at the national level. Honorable Speaker, the second one that has caught my eye is a reduction of 1.1 billion Kenya shillings on mineral royalties. I mean, this is something that is in the law that counties are entitled to a percentage, and it's a very small percentage of the mineral wealth that is exploited in the areas. And therefore, this is something that we cannot support as a House. And the most interesting one, Honorable Speaker, the reduction of the allocation to county health promoters from 3.2 billion Kenya shillings to 2.5 billion shillings. Honorable Speaker, this is something, a program that was launched with much fanfare here at Uhuru Park by none other than the President himself. And how will he explain, Honorable Speaker? Because as the committee rightfully notes, this 4.5 billion shillings, no, the 3.2 billion shillings, or the reduced to 2.5 billion shillings, is only enough for 86,133 community health promoters, Honorable Speaker. And we have a total of 107,831 of these community health promoters. What that tells you is that 22,000 community health promoters would have no pay for the next financial year. And this is something that we cannot countenance, Honorable Speaker. This is a step that we had already taken. And there are very serious players in the attainment of universal health care. And Honorable Speaker, this is something we cannot support. On behalf of the CHVs of Nairobi, I will vote to oppose any reduction in the monies that was allocated for CHVs. Honorable Speaker, the RMLF reduction of 10.5 billion Kenya shillings is, as the committee rightfully notes, a contravention of the Constitution. Because if under Schedule 4, a role is defined to be a county role, then it follows the constitutional principle requires that that role be financed. For you to remove the entire RMLF allocation for county roads under Schedule 4 is a contravention of the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, in the 2023-2024 financial year, the industrial parks, counties had been allocated 4.5 billion shillings for industrial parks. And of course, they were launched with much fanfare. I remember, Honorable Speaker, receiving a phone call from my mother in the village there, that right across from her house, the President was there launching an industrial park, and that she was going to have, in her own words, a place to sell her milk and a place to sell her chicken. Honorable Speaker, for all the counties that were supposed to benefit from these industrial parks, they only received a total of 1.12 billion Kenya shillings, even despite the allocation of 4.5 billion. So counties that were expecting 250 million for industrial parks only received 62 million Kenya shillings. And Honorable Speaker, if you had allowed me, I have a photo on my phone that my mother sent me this afternoon of that site where the President launched with much fanfare across from her house. And Honorable Speaker, everything has stalled, and there is no hope for her ever getting a market for her chicken or even the milk. Honorable Speaker, protect me from a majority leader. I'm surprised that the Senator for Nandi wants to insert himself in the communications between myself and my mother. And Honorable Speaker, therefore, we as a House must in totality take the position that there is absolutely no justification for these things. And as I said, even during the debate on the division of revenue, the practice has always been that any shortfall in revenue must be borne by the national government. These programs are critical. If you are going to tell 22,000 CHPs that they are no longer going to earn the 5,000 shillings that they are supposed to earn, Honorable Speaker, it is going to be something of a mountain, akin to a mountain to climb. Because how do you select the ones to earn and the ones not to earn? The ones to be cut from the program and the ones to be retained. Therefore, I want to agree totally with the proposal that has come from the Committee on Budget and Finance that we must reject in total any attempts to reduce the basket of devolution as has been proposed by the National Assembly. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker. I want to join my colleagues in appreciating the very diligent work of our Budget and Finance Committee. I have not hidden from this House my admiration of the work done by this committee that I served in my formative years as a legislator, and I continue to appreciate the diligence with which they execute the very critical responsibility bestowed upon them by the Constitution and our standing orders, Mr. Speaker. This committee, Mr. Speaker, has proven over the last few sessions of this Senate, Mr. Speaker, that when called upon to stand up for devolution, they do so with much zest, Mr. Speaker. And I want to appreciate the members of this committee, all those that make the committee sittings, while Senator Sifuna was a bit more generous with his platitudes, celebrating the committee. I have curiously noted, actually, that if you look through the Budget and Finance Committee, as Majority Leader always, Mr. Speaker, I'm keen to see who are the members that sign on to the report. It gives you an idea of who's present in these meetings. You will consistently note that actually it's almost on or about the same people, about 5 or 6 out of the 9 that are members of this committee that do this work. I celebrate those members, Mr. Speaker, and the leadership of Captain Ali Roba, Mr. Speaker. This proposal, I'll go straight to the recommendations, Mr. Speaker, because I don't need to repeat many of the brilliant things that have been said by colleagues who have spoken ahead of me, other than to appreciate, Mr. Speaker, that the findings of this committee are quite impressive, that they have been able to pinpoint the exact pressure points for our counties, Mr. Speaker. You know, even without a fight of saying we need to add money here and there, you need to first identify allocations that are already set out in law, that is already specified and said X amount of money go to our counties, like the mineral royalties, Mr. Speaker. It's defined in law already, so there's nothing to fight about. So sometimes you look at bills that come from the National Assembly and you wonder. I know for a fact, because I served as Chair of Staff Welfare, Mr. Speaker, that Parliament is made up of perhaps the most competent personnel and human resource you can find in this republic and even beyond, Mr. Speaker. So what happens when you serve in the National Assembly? Because I know our staff are diligent. When I served in committees, there are many things that, for example, we'd wish to insert into bills. But our clerks, the legal persons that serve with us in those committees, they will expressly guide us and help us appreciate that this is outright unconstitutional, this is outright against the provisions of the law. So when you find a reduction to royalties that have already been collected, 1.06 billion, and proposed, and it passes, and that committee that consider this bill has a lawyer, has a legislative drafter, Mr. Speaker, has a clerk, who understand all these things. No, I'm not focused on the political class, Mr. Speaker, because I know what happens in committees sometimes, but just thinking through provisions of law that are already set out. Because, Mr. Speaker, and it's important that members appreciate, conditional, additional, what is it called, the bill? The county government's additional allocations bill is a brainchild of this House. About 2 years ago, that previously we used to do $1, and you'd have separate divisions for additional allocation. But we felt that it was important, Mr. Speaker, because some of these allocations come midway through the year, that we have a standalone bill that helps Senate and institutions of oversight, Mr. Speaker, to have a more clearer view of both conditional and unconditional grants to our counties, Mr. Speaker, that we felt were getting lost in between the other broader allocations, county government's allocation to our counties, Mr. Speaker, where there was a better focus. In fact, Mr. Speaker, pointing out the errors in this bill, the very glaring ones, like the one I've spoken to, justifies the thinking that went into doing a separate bill by the Senate, Mr. Speaker. Because believe you me, if we were still doing $1 that has both the shareable revenue and the conditional and unconditional allocation, Mr. Speaker, as was the case previously, Mr. Speaker, then it will be difficult to pinpoint some of these errors. But the Senate made a wise decision, very wise one. And reading through this report, Mr. Speaker, you appreciate actually why it was important for us to have this separate distinction between shareable revenue and this conditional and unconditional grants to our counties, Mr. Speaker, because it is only when we begin to deal with this item by item, you know, Mr. Speaker, that you can pinpoint the shortfalls and point out specifically that we passed a law that, for example, set out, once we have made a decision that we are setting up these community health promoters, for example, Mr. Speaker, it is defined and it is known. It's human resource. These are human beings. They are people with families. They have genuine expectations. They believe that they have a job. They are going around our villages treating. In fact, these community health promoters, Mr. Speaker, much as we do not remunerate them as well as we should, Mr. Speaker, I can give testimony that I know that those that I know in various villages in our communities, Mr. Speaker, do even more work than some of the medical professionals, Mr. Speaker, because they are visiting the 100 households that were allocated to them. Therefore, because it is already known what their salary is, it is already defined what the number of those CHPs are per county, shouldn't it be rather obvious what their allocation is after factoring all the other additional costs that come with having them at their place of work, Mr. Speaker? And therefore, sometimes, and that is part of the lack of fluency in the drafting of some of these bills, Mr. Speaker, that I continue to point out and challenge staffers and members of parliament like you truly, who serve in these committees, Mr. Speaker, not to make our work so difficult, because these are things that are already specified and they are known. Therefore, they shouldn't even form a basis for argument, because we know what the exact number of these people are, and we should be able to conclude on them. I like, for example, Mr. Speaker, that it has taken this committee, Mr. Speaker, just to point out and remind the whole country that when we made the decision in 2015 to build county headquarters for those 5 counties, I think Isiolo, Lamu, Nyandarua, and I don't know which 2 others, Mr. Speaker, we were very clear about how much we were going to give them, Mr. Speaker, and it was expected because at that particular time, there was a genuine understanding, a general understanding amongst all of us that served in Budget and Finance Committee at that time, Mr. Speaker, that because these counties did not have provincial or divisional or district headquarters at that particular time, we were going to give them a boost, but we were not going to turn the whole country to be sponsors for them, as such that if you are unable to conclude on building this project, like I've seen the case, I don't want to mention the specific county, Mr. Speaker, because as majority leader, people may interpret that I have something against a specific county, but that county is listed here. And I like that the committee has pointed out that that county has taken more than what is their projected share, Mr. Speaker, and therefore we cannot give them the 78 million shillings that is being projected. Let them find within their resources, Mr. Speaker, because the rest of the other 4 counties, I want to believe, Lamu, Isiolo, and the rest, have concluded with the allocation that we gave to them at that particular time, and we should avoid this temptation. It points out, Mr. Speaker, again, to even the drafters and the people that go into drafting some of this legislation, that perhaps either out of corruption, Mr. Speaker, or because of the fact that you come from a particular county, that you just want to obviously violate the law. If you read the report, Mr. Speaker, of the Budget and Finance Committee of 2015, I know it, Mr. Speaker, 2015-2016, I know what we appended and the allocation that was given to each county. If you have exhausted your quota, Mr. Speaker, that's it. There is no reason why we should be burdening the rest of the country to complete a headquarters for you, Mr. Speaker, more than 10 years down the line after the advent of devolution. And therefore, I agree with the proposal that this committee is making to deny that allocation to that particular county. These specific programs, and I wish Senator Moses Kajwang was here, but I know members of PAC are here, and Senator Osotsi, your member here, because your committee actually looks into this special allocation and funds. This so-called loan allocated project fund, donor-funded projects, Mr. Speaker, in our counties. Danida, Floka, Sijui KAV, Ward for Agriculture, and they are increasing by the day, Mr. Speaker. If there is an avenue where public finances are being lost, Mr. Speaker, in our counties, it is these particular projects. And therefore, Senator Osotsi, if you and Senator Moses Kajwang do not lead us into establishing a mechanism through which we can ensure that citizens get value for money out of these loans, Mr. Speaker, then we need to disband those committees of yours. Because I do not know of a senator who cannot today go back to their county and point out under these funds of either FLOCA, the ones for Danida, the one for urban, for those that represent counties that have got urban settings for them, where this money is not wasted, where you find a kilometer of road is being built for more than 50 or 60 million shillings by a county government, Mr. Speaker. What nonsense is that, Mr. Speaker, that you're allowing as a county? Mr. Speaker, I really hope that by the time we get to the next session of the Senate, Senator Osotsi, Senator Moses Kajwang, your committees will actually lead us into ensuring that we have specific ways through which we ensure that these donor-funded projects in our county, citizens get value for money.
Senators, Senator Professor Jenner, may the majority leader be heard in silence, please.
So, Mr. Speaker, it will be important, and I like what the Budget and Finance Committee is pointing us to us, like this latest project, the one for Kenya Agricultural Business Development Project, you know, the one for putting together, I don't know, community projects for young people in agriculture. These things have been there since I was a youth. Mr. Speaker, I don't think I'm a very good example, probably even since Senator Oburu was a young person, Mr. Speaker. These interventions in agriculture, Mr. Speaker, if they were achieving the desired result, Mr. Speaker, then we would say that carry on. But the problem is, us as a Senate, we are not involved in the design of this project. Yet, we are brought in as rubber stamps at the tail end of the program, where we are just supposed to append our signatures and say, a program has been put together, therefore we can send funds to the counties. If you ask many of these senators that are here to give an account of their experience of these projects, the way they have been conceptualized and designed, Mr. Speaker, there would be more value for money in some of these grants, Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that they are specific to the projects that they are supposed to do, like these climate funds, Mr. Speaker. You find this is part of the money, if you don't know, like the FLOCA funds. It's part of the money that many of our governors continue to run projects similar to what used to be known in the national government as Kazi kwa Vijana, where they get their supporters and bloggers, you know, these people that they used to insult senators, so that they work with a slasher for 2-3 days and they disappear with 5,000 or 10,000 shillings per day, Mr. Speaker. Open, blatant corruption. Yet we account for these funds, colleague senators. It is time that we become also a bit more cautious in these so-called donor-funded projects. And you know, Mr. Speaker, they are very intelligent in how these projects. You know, those guys, the so-called treasury mandarins, are very intelligent. They know when they splash the catchphrases, World Bank, IMF-funded project, because of, I don't know, it's neocolonialism, Mr. Speaker, or whatever the issue is, we get easily excited and say, oh, if it is World Bank, perhaps this project have been properly thought about, let us just approve the funds. I want to believe, Mr. Speaker, that it is possible for the Senate of the Republic of Kenya to first put a stop to these so-called conditional and unconditional grants, Mr. Speaker, until such a time that we first see the feasibility report of these projects across our counties, Mr. Speaker, because, you know, these are monies that we'll eventually pay for. It is not free lunch. It is billions of shillings, Mr. Speaker, that eventually accumulate and stockpile as part of our national debt, Mr. Speaker. Yet, if you compare how that money is being used, Mr. Speaker, you know for a fact that many of them are just wasted, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, as a House, I want to, while I agree with the proposal to top up the funds, Senator Roba, there must be better accountability mechanisms of this project, up to and including not just necessarily the amounts of money that are being dispersed, Senator Roba, but the conceptualization of the project itself. I know what is best for the people of Kericho. That's why they elected me to represent them here as a senator. And so on for all the rest of the senators that are here. I don't see how somebody can sit in Washington and design a project that we're just supposed to implement it as a turnkey project, Mr. Speaker, and expect that it will work miracles for my people. The Senate of the Republic of Kenya must have a better voice on these particular projects, Mr. Speaker, and including their conceptualization, what is the costing, Mr. Speaker, and how it gets. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, it's just a concern, let me go to the specific clause. Part H, Mr. Speaker, of the report of their last recommendations, where the committee is proposing to us that we amend clause 5.6 to provide that all additional allocations to county governments under clause 5.1, 2, 3, and 4 shall be transferred to the respective CRF in accordance with the disbursement schedule approved pursuant to section 17 of the Public Finance Management Act, Cap 412A. What made me curious about this, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that I thought this is already provided for in law. But I have been in this house long enough, Mr. Speaker, to know that there is nothing that makes it sway into legislation out of idle venture. Are there perhaps specific counties, Mr. Speaker, where these funds or these additional allocations, Mr. Speaker, are being directed to without benefit to the rest of all the 47 county governments, Mr. Speaker, as such that Senator Roba and his team would wish that we provide this amendment to clause 5 and 6 and ensure that there is a direct transfer to the specific CRF of a particular county. I thought there is a general application, and maybe I should have asked the chairperson of this committee in private, but help me to wonder aloud with the rest of senators so that they appreciate. You know, Mr. Speaker, it will be important for senators to know that before the advent of this particular bill, one of the grave mistakes that used to happen, Mr. Speaker, is that when it was only Treasury on their own, making the decision of which counties to benefit from conditional grants, Mr. Speaker, it was specific counties that used to benefit from this particular project. And we felt that it was unfair to the rest of the devolution family because we believe in the principle of equity, that all 47 distinct county governments are equal before the law, Mr. Speaker. And that is why we moved the House, and the House agreed with us that let this House be the principal organ that does the distribution of resources. So that today, if we run a project in 5 counties, Mr. Speaker, we can justify to the rest of our colleagues that the other 42 have missed out, but somehow, some way, in the next financial year, you will be beneficiaries. That never used to be the case. And therefore, I get concerned, Mr. Speaker, when we have this amendment, and I hope Senator Roba can convince me before we take the vote on why it has to be specified that into the CRF accounts of the specific counties without listing which those particular counties are. Therefore, with those very many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support our committee and appreciate them for the very good work that they've done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Now, honorable senators, the youngest member of the House turns 81 today. That's none other than the Senator for Siaya, the Honorable Oburu Oginga. Happy birthday, Senator Oburu. Order, honorable senators. Thank you. Order, honorable senators, order. Order, honorable senators. Senator Oburu Odinga, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First, Mr. Speaker, I thank you profusely for recognizing me as the youngest member of this House. Mr. Speaker, I have turned 81, and I still feel as if I'm 40, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I also want to take this opportunity to contribute to the report of our committee of the budget, chaired by our very competent leader from Mandera, Senator Roba. Mr. Speaker, this is a very, very important bill. I think it is one of the cardinal functions of our Senate. Our Senate is there to protect the devolution. Mr. Speaker, I was a member of this parliament when there was no CDF. And at that time, it was only the local government fund. And then there was later on something called RDF, Rural Development Fund, which was a very small amount of money, Mr. Speaker, and mainly from donors. And we used to sit long hours as MPs in the DDCs trying to determine where that money would go. Mr. Speaker, when CDF came, we are the ones who brought CDF. Engineer Karwe brought the proposals, and we all supported, and we created CDF. Mr. Speaker, it appears to me that the creation of CDF has made the MPs, our members of the National Assembly, to think that devolution does not matter. Whatever goes to the devolved units does not matter as long as they are getting access to that money. Mr. Speaker, they are getting access to that money illegally. So the courts have determined that CDF is illegal several times, Mr. Speaker. But always there is arm twisting. There is a way that the members of the National Assembly always find their ways to bring it back. However, cunningly they try to bring it back. Still, when it goes to court, courts declare it illegal. Mr. Speaker, there is also another thing. This rural roads fund, which also somehow, I don't know how the members of the National Assembly managed to twist it so that it becomes, it is under them. It is somehow under them. They are the ones who control the, that fund. So, Mr. Speaker, that is why I think, that is in my own thinking, I think that is why they forget. When it comes now to the allocation to the counties, they recklessly reduce it as if they don't live in the counties. There is none of the members of the National Assembly who does not dwell in a particular county. And they know what the counties are supposed to do. We do the oversight, apart from protection. But, Mr. Speaker, while we do the oversight, we cannot say, oversight what is not there. We can only oversight monies which are there. So the first thing to do is to allocate money. Mr. Speaker, you remember when the Revenue Allocation Commission recommended that the counties should get 412 billion, and we approved that. Then when it went to the National Assembly, they reduced it to 498. And they were saying they have increased it, Mr. Speaker. They did not increase anything because from 396 to 398, that 2 billion shillings increment, Mr. Speaker, covers only a little more or a little less than the inflation, which is more than 8-9%, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the deduction which are made as part of what they call austerity measures. These deductions, Mr. Speaker, are done arbitrarily without thinking of how they will affect the people at home. Mr. Speaker, when you think of these community health promoters, the community health promoters, originally they were not being paid anything. The counties, they were at the mercy of the governors. It was the governors giving them some little allowance if they will, but they perform the most important function at the grassroots, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these are the people who treat you before you go to any dispensary, if you have any disease at home. So these people have been working tirelessly with the communities at the grassroots without being remunerated at all, anything. They are not being paid even a token. Mr. Speaker, this is God sent, and the MPs should appreciate the work these people do. And for the first time, officially, there is an allocation for them in the budget to pay them. And the members of the National Assembly don't see such importance. When they want to reduce monies for austerity measures, they should know where to do it. Mainly it should be in the national government budget, not in the county budgets, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this knife, I used to work in the Treasury, Mr. Speaker, and we used to have a knife which was cutting allocations to ministries. But, Mr. Speaker, there was a misunderstanding. There was a misunderstanding because ministries were just throwing figures, big figures outside the ceilings which they were given because they knew that the Treasury was going to reduce them anyway. So they say, let us give a big figure so that they will, if they reduce it, it will come to what we want. But when it comes to us in Treasury, if you do work within your ceilings, we give you everything that you want because it is within your ceilings. But if you inflate it, we don't know where to cut. So we just cut maybe some of the most essential ones you need. This is what the members of the National Assembly are doing. They are cutting the most essential. They are attacking roads. They are attacking industrial parks. They are attacking health, the community health workers. Mr. Speaker, these are areas which should be no-go zone for the National Assembly when they come to reduction. These are areas which should be protected, and they should not touch on this. Mr. Speaker, some of them don't understand what industrial parks mean. These industrial parks are going to create a revolution in terms of employment of the youth in the rural areas. And Mr. Speaker, when they are established there, it should be the duty of every leader to protect them and make sure that that money is ring-fenced and it is not touched in austerity measures when you come to reducing allocations, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to speak more because mine was only to support the recommendations of this committee, and I think they have done a good job, and we shall continue to support you if you work this. I used to be the chairman of Finance Committee before Budget Committee was created. We are the ones who created the Budget Committee, and I really appreciate the work being done by you, Honorable Roba, and your committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
I'm aware you've whispered it to me, so you need not take to the floor. Now, Honorable Senators, we had deferred 2 orders because we did not have the requisite delegations to go into division. Now we do. So allow me to rearrange today's order paper pursuant to Standing Order 45-2. We handle order number 9 and 10, and thereafter we come back to the debate on the additional revenue. It will take us less than 10 minutes. Clerk, proceed to call those to orders, please.
Order number 9, the Political Parties Amendment number 2 bill, Senate Bills number 26 of 2024, second reading division.
Sergeant at Arms, ring the division bell, please, for 5 minutes.
The quorum bell is currently on at the Senate this afternoon, following the directives by the Speaker of the Senate that the House votes on 2 crucial bills. The bills are the Political Parties Amendment Bill number 2, Senate Bills number 26 of the year 2024. This is a bill by the Senate leader of the majority party and the Senate leader of the minority party. The other bill that the House is yet to vote on, or is set to vote on this afternoon, is in regards to the Election Offences Amendment Bill number 2 of the year 2024. This is Bill number 28 at the Senate, and this is the Election Offences Amendment Bill number 2 that the House is set to vote on, proceed into division this afternoon. But at this particular juncture, the House has the numbers to vote on these two bills. And that is why the Speaker has directed that the quorum bell is rung for 5 minutes ahead of that crucial vote. The Elections Amendment Bill of 2024 is an act of Parliament seeking to amend the Elections Act for the connected purposes. A look at this bill in regards to the matters elections. Is that the bill seeks to empower pursuant to the provisions of Article 88, subsection 4H, to carry out evaluation of the electoral process within 1 year after the general election.
Now, honorable senators, we will start with order. It has already been called out by the clerk, and therefore, order, honorable senators. I will proceed to put the question, which is, that the political parties Amendment Bill, number 2, Senate Bills, number 26 of 2025. Now we are going to vote electronically. So honorable senators, at this juncture, I will ask you to pull your cards out of the delegate unit. And Sergeant at Arms, kindly collect the unattended cards to forestall ghost voting. Honorable senators, you may now log back and proceed to vote. To the dispatch and cast your vote. Senator Haji, proceed to the dispatch and cast your vote. Honorable Senators, the result of the division is as follows: 0, abstention 0. So the ayes have it.
The Political Parties Amendment Number 2 Bill of 2024, a bill for an Act of Parliament to amend the Political Parties Act, Cap 7D, and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 10, the Elections Offences Amendment Number 2 Bill, Senate Bills Number 28 of 2024, second reading, division.
Honorable Senators, I'll proceed to put the question that the Elections Amendment Bill Number 2, Senate Bills Number 29 of 2024, be now read a second time.